coming at you again after Week 10. There's only 1 week left in the regular season of the Commander Draft Tournament, and we got a huge action-packed full episode of PokeCentre, which starts right now. Ladies and gentlemen, the Pokemon gods have used Perish Song. There's only 1 week left in the regular season of the Commander Draft Tournament, and it's either you're in or you faint. Welcome to episode 10 of PokeCentre. I'm Douglas Evans, joined as always by my co-host Calvin Rowat. Calvin, how you doing today?
I'm jazzed.
Wow, you're jazzed, eh?
Oh yeah.
Alright, let's get right into all the smooth, jazzy talk here. I was honestly expecting this week to have absolutely nothing to talk about in this intro. There's no trades, there's nothing going on, and of course, at the last second, we had a plethora of news just dumped right onto our plate. Let's start off with the biggest piece of news. That's that we had some shenanigans this past week, this past few days, and Conner Peterson, he was scheduled to play Jared in Week 9 of the tournament. Of Week 10 of the tournament. He did not play his match by Sunday, and as a result, Jared was trying to get the match played. He was online for a couple hours, I guess, waiting for Conner. It was not to be, and yeah, like I said, the match was not played, and the admin team, you guys have decided that Jared would get the win with a +2 differential. Tell me how you came to that decision.
Well, whenever we do something like this, we try to gather up all the information so we get Connor's side, Jared's side, and kind of just the admin's general perspective of the situation. And it was pretty clear that Conner wasn't really interested in playing too much. As it was seen last week, he kind of tried dumping that match as well. Then this week, we're getting kind of the same vibes. Jared did stay up for 3 hours straight online trying to get a hold of Conner, which never happened. So, we felt it appropriate that Jared be given the victory and the +2 differential.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good to me. I guess the other touch point that we want to talk about, which is a very important part of this, is that Conner has now, not only has he not played the match, he's now dropped out from the tournament. So what's kind of the, sometimes we make light of the situation of the rules and all the stuff that you have to uphold to, but at the end of the day, there does need to be some consequences here. So what is the result? What are the consequences for Conner Peterson's just unwillingness to play and now dropping out of the tournament in the last week of play here?
Well, no matter when you drop out of a tournament in the NCPL, the consequence is always the same. He will receive a tournament ban. So that means he will not be able to play in any of our tournaments until an admin deems it acceptable that he can. But based off, his intent last season, he was really trying to drop out in that tournament, and he basically did the exact same thing this tournament. So we will not be allowing Conner Peterson to play with us anymore, unfortunately. He's going to be losing his ranking, so he'll be moved down to D rank permanently. It's just a shame, right? Like, it was just one match left. In my personal opinion, like, whether you win or lose that match, I think it would have been worth it just to throw something together, get it over with in 5 minutes, so that you still keep the connections to the group. But, he felt strongly. He was against the decision of the admin team, and he's busy with college. So, that was his decision to make. But as an admin team and as a moderator admin, somebody who has been holding these tournaments for 4 years now, you can't really let these type of things slide. Otherwise, from my experience, it tends to roll. We always talking about snowball effects in in the matches, right? Like Ross talks about, oh, once you get some Oxygon, it gets a Swords Dance, the momentum builds. It's the same thing with dropouts and allowing the slipping of rules. You know, what you let one person kind of push the boundaries, so someone else is right there to also continue to push it until the whole thing falls apart. So we kind of had to crack down and be a little harder on this one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The thing makes sense to me, and like you said, you got to be able to uphold the integrity of your group and the integrity of your tournaments. And we got a great group of people in this group, and always great players that are wanting to play. So it's like we don't want to, you don't want to entertain those players that aren't showing as much interest and are kind of wanting to cause a bit more of a disturbance than anything else. So moving on from that, of course, now we need someone to play in Conner Peterson's last match for this week. In his place, the match is scheduled to be against Robin for the last week 11 here. And it's going to be Leo taking his place. No, I'm just kidding. Leo, of course, has already taken Norman's place, and Leo can't take the place of every dropout. But it's actually going to be Daniel stepping in. How did that come to be, Calvin?
Simply, everybody kind of barraged him in the group chat, kept tagging him, and he just accepted. Daniel made his debut last season during season 6, and from when we were recruiting for players, participation for this season, he seemed like he really wanted to play, and he was a little bummed out that he couldn't due to things outside of the group. So I think this will be a fun way to still keep him included, and huge thanks to Dan, because this is great, being able to step in for when something really annoying and crappy happens like this. It definitely turns that negative into a positive, and I think everybody's happy to see him on board for this last week of games.
Yeah, and it should be a fun match to watch him play against Robin there. So at the end of the day, everyone's having fun playing the game, and that's what it's all about at the end of the day, right?
Oh, of course.
Yeah, so on to our next piece of business. We have something else kind of interesting to talk about here, and that is Laurel, one of the admins in the NCPL, has launched a new concept with some exhibition matches. So she's put in a detailed post on the Facebook page of the NCPL, kind of detailing what it's all about and what it means. But Calvin, maybe perhaps provide us here with a brief description of what these exhibition matches entail and what she's talking about.
Well, it's pretty simple. They're just non-sanctioned matches. They're not going to affect any standings or anything. It's simply games with the people in the tournament that want to, have rematches against other players, have cross-divisional matches with players, between Sword and Shield. It's all just for fun, For example, you get anybody from Shield side can challenge anyone from Sword. Anything's allowed for these next couple weeks here. We're hoping to see a couple, some people take it part in this. I know I probably would like to have some match with somebody on the other side. I think it'd just be kind of cool. The divisions have definitely not had too much to do with each other, so this is kind of a cool way to just, in a non-stress environment, just have people have an open challenge and, say like, oh, you've always wanted to play against that person. Well, now you get the opportunity to do so.
Absolutely. I think it's a great idea and a really cool concept to keep, everyone's been playing for this whole stretch of, now we're into 11 weeks of everyone playing these matches. And like you said, we've had the 2 separate divisions, so why not mix things up a little bit? Still have some fun in the final weeks. I know you yourself, you'll be playing in the playoffs and all that stuff, but we still want to have everybody else engaged and know what's going on and feel like they're still a part of what's happening, and they can still have some fun matches while doing it, while following along with who at the end of the day is going to win this tournament. So I think it's a great idea and it's super concept. And, I've been kind of keeping my finger on the pulse with the NCPL and the admin team. And I kind of heard rumors and some murmurs that maybe this might be something that Laurel was going to work on. So I took it upon myself. I was trying to put together a huge match, something to really headline the exhibition matches. That could be real main event status. And unfortunately, now, Conner Peterson was one of the participants involved in that match, and the whole thing's fallen apart, and I can't get in touch with Conner's side. I can't get in touch with his opponent's side. And this would have been absolutely huge. I cannot stress enough how big this match would have been. But at the end of the day, I did spend a lot of money and I got a trailer made up to hype this dream match up, and I guess that's really all it is. It's just a dream match. But let's play it right now.
The biggest what if in the history of the NCPL. If there's one player that I truly respect, it's Conner Peterson. After our Season 6 match, he put me to my limits of what I was capable of. And honestly, I've never been the same since.
Playing against Norman was the toughest experience of my life.
You know, my biggest fear in this tournament was looking across and seeing Norman. I know a true competitor. That man scares the living shit out of me.
Seeing the pure dominance by Conner Peterson and Norman in this tournament, week after week in the standings, has reminded me time and time again why I'm retired. Yeah. There's no question. This is the ultimate dream match.
For greatness because I'm built from it. Nobody gon' stop for me. Here we go. Here we go.
God help us all. Wow, that was even better than I envisioned it could ever be. I gotta tell you, that is $275,000 well spent right there. And unfortunately, it's just a dream, but that's a damn good dream if you ask me. Calvin, I know you're probably speechless. I'm sure just like everybody else that just watched that, but any thoughts on that?
Shocked, Douglas. Honestly, that was the most beautiful thing I've ever witnessed. Like I'm wiping the tears off my brow. You know, this is this would have been the greatest match ever. This would have been the Stone Cold versus Hulk Hogan of the NCPL matches. Like it's a damn shame that these two had to, you know, take the honorable way out and forfeit and quit the NCPL. But would have loved to see these two titans, you know, come together.
That's just it. This is the dream match of all dream matches. You'll never see it. And if you see it anywhere else that isn't in NCPL, you know, it just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. Honestly, the thing was so incredible that, Calvin, you were wiping tears off your brow. Your tears were defying gravity and moving upward onto your eyebrows to then be wiped from. And that's what I probably find more miraculous than the trailer itself. Any comments on that? Is there something wrong with your eyes?
Well, you know, like the power that these two exhume. Like, you know, tidal waves are happening. Earthquakes are shattering, you know, the continents themselves. Like, everything is being defied when these two monsters are out there. So, yes, Douglas, you know, gravity is now shifting. So, you know, my tears are a little all over the place. Get over it.
That's fine. I'm just asking a question. I just want to hey, I report the news here on PokeCentre. And kind of to that point of reporting the news on PokeCentre, one thing that we forgot to mention when talking about those exhibition matches is the fact that if you play in exhibition matches, they will, of course, be covered here on PokeCentre. We'll still provide you the highlights of any matches that are played within that exhibition little match thing that Laurel has created here. So if you still want to, super excited, you want to hear Calvin and I talk about all your matches and all the great plays you make, and maybe the not so great plays you make, and we'll talk about your questionable sets, then that is more incentive to play in these exhibition matches. Or maybe it's not and you hate the show. I have no idea. But let's move on from that. If we even can. That was so incredible. We're going to try to move on from that and move on with the rest of the show here. But we have a lot of great matches, playoff implications, people's hopes to get into the postseason are on the line here. Let's get right into it right now. Starting off this week in the Shield division, our first matchup is Robin against Zeb. And this is going to be Focus Blast City here, population Robin and Zeb. They were just flying all over the place. Typhlosion's coming in. It's going to hit a Focus Blast and get rid of whatever the hell this thing is. Calvin, what the hell is this thing?
Well, that's a Drampa, and it's gone now. Zeb's been watching his fair share of the anime, because he just explodes his electrode there. A little odd. But he's going to go for Triple Axel, and he gets pretty punished with it. But the fact that Triple Axel is so powerful, you know, even though he's getting the Rocky Helmet chip for each hit, you know, he's still able to take out the Meganium there, which is really awesome to see. Really cool prep on both sides. And yeah, just like Douglas said, this is Focus Blast City, but unfortunately this Feraligatr is going to miss his own Focus Blast there, but it didn't matter too much in the end. Robin had a pretty good hold on the end game here with the Scarf Eruption, and yeah, he was able to bring in a solid win.
Yeah, hey, you're underselling here, Calvin. Robin picked up a win, and he secured his spot in the playoffs. This is a win that Zeb really needed this week, and he's still in limbo, but a good match overall, and yeah, Robin's in the playoffs. Next up is a match I'm really excited for. That's Chris against Laurel. Now, to the surprise of absolutely nobody, it doesn't look like Laurel's going to play this one all too well. I can't believe it. Jesus, what an idiot.
Well, I don't think she's an idiot, but yeah, I think Chris definitely caught her off guard, especially with that Scarf Delphox. And yeah, his prep was just really strong this match. He just really was playing from the back foot a lot. You know, the Mag Mortar was able to kind of stop the Muck setup sweep here with the Curse, but, you know, after that, things just continued to go downhill. She had thrown away basically her Aerodactyl early in the game. Noivern got knocked out. Her last kind of, you know, bastion of hope was the Comfey. But the Delphox was going to switcheroo a Choice Scarf onto it, completely neutralizing any sort of Calm Mind setup. Basically guaranteeing that Chris would, you know, win this match.
Yeah, well, kind of like what I said in the beginning, I'm not really surprised that Laurel kind of screwed this up. You know, she was in playoff contention, but it didn't work out. You know, she's bringing in the Claydol here as we are watching the end game, and let's just hope that now that Laurel's officially out of playoffs, she can spend the last 2 weeks and focus on trying to do the standings right. Moving on. Ladies and gentlemen, get ready for the ride. It's the Jonas match this week. This week against Simon. Holy hell.
Oh, tell me, Douglas, is it week 2 or is it week fucking 10? Because I'm seeing Stoutland immediately getting burnt, and the next turn, I'm seeing Stoutland immediately getting KO'd. What the hell, Simon, buddy? I thought we'd been through this. You want to save that dog. Not throw it away so early. And same goes with this Apollyon. I actually thought this was a really cool set. You've got the agility, weakness policy, taking a page out of Williams' book. But man, got nothing for the Lantern. So you definitely want to make sure you put some chip on some of these Pokemon before you go all out with these kind of sets. The one kind of moment that I thought worked out a little bit for Simon here is he's got the Sand Veil, so Taunt actually missed, and he was able to get a good hit off on Cobalion. But, no wacky Bronzong set this week, just another generic Jonas victory, so that's always funny, I guess.
Up next is a huge match for Ross, and it's him taking on Reggie. But right off the hop here, Reggie's going to bring in the Savali, and he's going to go for the multi-attack. What a way to start this match. Whew, I need to take a second, Calvin. Take it away.
Well, something that was really surprising on Ross's end is he brought Choice Specs Florges. I don't think I'd ever think of, ever bringing that. But look at how much damage it was doing to these resists. A really cool bring. And, he wasn't shy of his hard-hitting special attackers. This Clawitzer is really showing how much of a threat it is in these later weeks. being able to totally dismantle that Aromatisse. But Reggie's also got his own fair amount of wall breakers. This Hitmonchan is a real threat. Eventually the two will have to meet, and it looks like Hitmonchan's got the advantage here, but the Water Pulse Confusion is going to be the X factor. And of course, Confused, and he's going to get taken down. Very cool how those two eventually met together and had a little mini showdown in the battle. But after, that, Ross would be able to clean things up, and this is a huge match for Ross. He really needs to win, these next few matches, and this was a big hurdle that he actually was able to get over.
Alright, in our last match in the Shield Division, it's Brian against Leo.
Oh, this was such a fun match. So many cool things happening all throughout this game. One of my favorite little techs here is always going to be Future Sight, but what makes it cool is how Leo got it to work really well here. Goes for the U-turn. He's going to bring in the Golisopod, who's going to threaten the first impression, and his best switch is going to be the Torkoal, which can take the first impression, but it is now taking that Future Sight. Completely crippling Torkoal. Really cool. Something else that was a standout moment, in my opinion, was this Smeargle set. Running the double status. That is very cool. Definitely neutralizes a couple Pokemon.
Hey, here comes my highlight. Look at this. The Marowak with the Boomerang. It don't only hit once, but it hits twice. There goes the substitute. I love to see it. Love the Marowak. My boy.
Now, the turn that decided the game was going to be the speed tie between these two Megas. And who's going to get it? It's going to be Leo. Oh, sucks that the game comes down to, chance like that, but that's kind of how the game goes, I guess. It was a really fun game. Brian is now out of playoffs, unfortunately. No longer in contention. But, he can still have fun in his last match. And hey, this was a really fun match. So, good game to both players.
Yeah, this was an awesome match, and unfortunately I see Brian take the loss and now out of playoff contention. And I'm sure in hindsight, he sure wishes that he was playing against Norman and not Leo. Long live Norman. Heading over to the Sword Division, and we're going to kick things off with a huge match. It's you, Calvin, against Florian.
Yeah, this was a pretty cool match. Maybe not so much as far as the standings are concerned, but definitely just as, strong players in the tier. And, well, he was not playing around. He brought two choice bands, one on the Scyther, one on the Hariyama. Totally took out my physically defensive Drudgegon. Very scary. But you know what? This Rotom put in some excellent work. I knew this was going to be a great Pokemon in this draft, and this right here proves why. Able to get the Nasty Plot off. Flo goes for the substitute. Maybe thinking he can set up on me or something, but no, I've got the Hidden Power Rock here. And he's going to make a pretty bad read. He's going to assume it's Hidden Power Fighting, and the Scyther is going to go down. Oh, that is a very, very tough play he made there. And just to rub some salt in the wound, I'm going to get a crit. Guess all my bad luck's definitely fucking paying off in these final matches here with my luck. But it would still be a really close game. It was pretty much in my favor to win. I could have played better for differential, but I decided to do everything as safe as possible. Able to neutralize the Arctozolt and, not let this Hoopa get too out of control, which it is a very underrated Pokemon. Very strong with the Choice Scarf. But yeah, it'll be cool to see both of us and how we'll do in playoffs. So a good match here.
Our next match is Joshua against Paul.
This is a really exciting match. Honestly, really happy to see these two guys taking this match really seriously. And, Paul, he said he was going to have some fun in these next weeks, but it seems like he's actually, trying some cool stuff, like this Electivire set that Ross suggested. It screens in Teleport, and you saw how it was able to switch in on the Goodra. Honestly, a really cool set. I think this would have been something great to bring earlier in the season.
Yeah, now we have Joshua here with he's trying to pivot around this Savali, and what's he going to do? He's going to bring a Savali of his own, because as we know, there's a million Savalis in this tournament. Paul might have made a misplay there because he went for crunch. We all know it's multi-attacks where it's at when it comes to Savali. Just can't get enough of it, honestly.
Yeah, and now we move on to this Scrafty. Look at this, taking a Draco Meteor like nothing, and then Drain Punching. This is actually really bad for Josh, because I think that was the only thing left that could have taken a hit from the Tornadus, which will come in important later on, as we'll see. Because, when it all came down to it, the Tornadus was able to come in at full health and just click knock off to knock out everything. Yeah, this is a really close game. Really happy to see both these guys, still taking it seriously and, coming into this game with great attitudes. And man, they had a hell of a match.
Yeah, this match was awesome. I really thought Josh had it, but to see Paul come back and clean up those 3 Pokemon with the Tornadus, that was just awesome. Great match. Next up is the highlight of PokeCentre every week. It's the Blade match going against Hayden. And holy smokes, another big match and a big win by Blade. I can't even believe it. Calvin, tell me about how Blade dominated Hayden here.
Well, first off, Hayden missed a Fire Blast on the Masquerain really early. That was very important. Also, the Glade was able to get critical chip on the Registeel. I don't know what Hayden was thinking throwing this Pokemon away. It was so important to this matchup. But honestly, the most perplexing thing is watching this Masquerain click Quiver Dance 4 times and seeing Hayden do nothing about it. I'm speechless. So what do you expect is going to happen? You're just going to instantly get swept.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happens here. You can see Pokemon, doesn't matter who Hayden sends out, Blade is going to take it down. This is a second win in a row for Blade. I love it. He's got 3 wins for the season. Unfortunately, it looks like Blade might have picked the wrong time of the season to go on a hot streak, but it doesn't matter. This is just Blade getting ready for next season when he's going to dominate. Yes, Blade! I don't know if anything can follow that Blade match, but let's try here. Connor West versus William up next.
Well, I think this match can follow that because they had a really great match. And, it shows with some great offensive presence with the Sceptile on Connor's side. He got it going with the Sword Stance, and William, knowing what was important and what wasn't necessarily important to his team, actually throws away the Metagross here, which I think was pretty smart. He's able to get the Bullet Punch chip off on the Sceptile and preserve the rest of his team. But, this camera up was a really great bring. Especially defensive, as we can see here, that Shadow Ball just bounced right off. And William's going to make a play, which in my opinion saved him this match. He makes a great double there into the Swanna to get the Roost off against the Gastrodon. And as you see, that pays off later here when he's able to, take that extra outrage from the Guzzlord and take it out with the Brave Bird. Really smart, tactical play from William there. And, this Kadabra is just going to clean up. It just seemed to have the perfect moveset for the end here. Energy Ball for the Gastrodon, and a cheeky counter against the Darmanitan. Really great prep for William. Connor West gave it a good try. And, GG to all.
Next up, Sean needs a win to keep his playoff hopes alive, and he's going to have a chance against Lewis here.
Yeah, Lewis is going to go all out in trying to win this match, Even though he's not in playoff contention, he still wants to give it his all. And I give him huge props for this Vanillix set. Would have liked to see Freeze Dry on there for the Quagsire, but, Toxic Taunt is also pretty great. It's able to, pressure the switches, and then this Blizzard is just so free in this match. I don't know what Sean was thinking there, but throws away the Sigilyph, and Vanillix is effectively put the advantage in Lewis's court. And he's eventually going to get a Shell Smash off with the Blastoise, but boom, going to miss his first Hydro Pump there, letting the Quagsire get a Toxic off. Going to protect, try to let the Toxic do its damage, and then, another Hydro Pump miss. I felt that one. My stomach dropped. I can only imagine the frustration Lewis is feeling. This Quagsire is such a problem for his team, and the rest of the match shows that. It doesn't switch out, and it just continues to toxic stall everything. You know, you can tell Sean is desperate to get into playoffs because he is resorting to every tactic in the book. And, well, thank God for Lewis, you know, for saving us from having to watch 30 more turns of toxic stall. He throws in the towel and forfeits this one, giving Sean the big win to, you know, keep his, like Doug said earlier, keep his playoff dreams alive.
And our final match of the week, it's a big one for Vikram. He needs to win to get into playoffs, and he's taking on Matthew. Not an easy road to get there. Take it away, Calvin.
Yeah, not an easy road, especially when you messed up not bringing Sandstream on your Gigalith. But you know what I say? No sand, no problem. After a nice big crit return on that Mesper, and look at this big damage on, you know, fucking Benny the Torterra. Stoutland's in. It is tearing this team apart. Look at it. Luxray's down. Get this man a stretcher. He's getting destroyed. Wow. That's how you use a Stoutland. Take note, Simon. But the Stoutland's eventually going to go down, and that's going to be basically it for most of Vic's offense, because this Miltank is going to come in, and it's going to set up, and that's basically going to be the end for Vic.
Yeah, pretty much. You know, Vic, in the last week of trades, he got rid of his Charizard for that Metachan there, but it was not enough to take out the Miltank. It's just too strong, too tough. It's got the raise stats for its defense, and it's going to take out Vic's teams, and it's going to erase any hopes he had to get into playoffs this season. It's tough to see. Vic put a lot of effort into this season, and you hate to see it, but unfortunately, it's that time. It's just what happens at the end of the day. Some players make it, some players don't. Matt's going on, and Vic's just, after next week, he's done. Alright, it is that time to look into the standings, how things are shaping up after Week 10, the second last week of the regular season, as we now head into Week 11, which will be the final week of the regular season. Now, as you can see, I've kind of changed things up with the colors in the standings here. So what we have here, I'll kind of explain these right now. So we have a darker green, which you can see with Jonas and Robin. Now, what that indicates is that these two players are not only locked into, they are guaranteed to be in the playoffs, but they have guaranteed and locked in their playoff spot. So Jonas will be the top seed in Shield, and Robin will be the second seed in the Shield division. Now on the Sword side, we have a lighter green color. That means that these three players, Matthew, yourself, Calvin, and Florian, have all clinched a playoff spot, but we don't know exactly what their position is in the playoffs. So we don't know who's going to be the first seed playing the fourth seed, who's going to be the second seed playing the third seed. That we don't know how that's going to line up, and that is still going to be in contention and figuring that out, how that shapes up after this week's matches. Now, we have 2 players from Sword and 5 players from Shield. They're all in yellow, and these are the 7 players that are still in contention for a playoff spot in the last week of competition here. We're going to get into all that and how that shapes up in just a second here. And then, of course, everyone kind of grayed out. These are players that are no longer in contention for the playoffs. Calvin, any thoughts as we look into the standings before we preview the huge last week of the regular season here?
Well, it's Week 10 here. You know, Week 10 was concluded, but there's still been a bit of movement in the standings. Florian drops from first down to third, and Matthew Heater reclaims that number 1 spot on the Sword side. Sean got a big win, and Vic took a big loss, and he is now out of playoff contention, which is very unfortunate for Vic. You know, he was really in that 5th place spot for the majority of the tournament, but you know, this last week definitely was a tough one for him. Now we see Sean in that spot, and that's, you know, it's not as interesting on the Sword side as it is on the Shield, but you know, there's something going on there. On the Shield side, you know, there is some big wins and such. The you know, one of the biggest ones was the Ross win over Reggie that kind of changed the landscape and, you know, really made Shield extremely interesting. Another big win was Leo's victory over Brian. You know, Leo popped himself up there, up to 10th place, and unfortunately for Brian, he is out of playoff contention. Same with Laurel, her loss to Chris. Chris kind of is keeping himself in the conversation here, and unfortunately, Laurel is no longer in that talk. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the current standings.
Another thing to, of course, take note of is that I know you don't want to talk about it because you're intimidated, but my boy Blade has moved up to the 10th position in the sword division, and I think that's pretty damn impressive. And I don't care if you don't want to talk about it because I'm telling you about it. I'm telling everyone listening about it. That's great. Go Blade. Keep it up, buddy. Let's talk about next week's matches. What do you think? Are we done with my tirade there? Let's talk about next week.
Yeah, let's get right into it.
Okay. So, we'll start off with the sword division. Next week we have Matthew is taking on Florian. So that is exactly what I was talking about earlier. That is a match that's going to determine who's in first place, who's in second place, who's in third place. Of course, Calvin, you're still in the mix there with your match as well. But these are literally 2 of the top 3 seeds fighting each other. High differentials, high win-loss records. And that's going to we're going to find out who's going to be in those top spots. Any thoughts on that match?
Yeah, basically all this match is going to confirm is who's basically in first. So if Matt wins, obviously he's going to hold on to the first spot. But if Flo wins, they're basically going to be switching there, except Matt will most likely potentially be second if I lose my match. But if I win my match, then I'll likely be number 1 and Flo will be number 2. So that's all this match really is. It's kind of deciding where exactly Matt and Flo are going to fall under, which might not seem super important, but it is going to be important for seeing who they're going to face in the quarterfinals round of playoffs.
And Calvin, for yourself, do you feel any more... Maybe it's something we can talk about next week, but do you have a preference whether if you were playing Matthew or Flo, which is basically kind of how likely it would wind up if you were not in the top spot?
It's tough to say. I feel like I've got great tools for both players. I think my team's got some really great answers to the greatest strength of Flo's team, which has been his Hail Core. I think I'm one of the few people that has, some of the best counters to that. But on the flip side, on Matthew Heater's team, we talk every week about how overwhelming the Primarina is. I feel like I'm one of the few people that I don't have a hard wall for it. Let's be real, nobody does. But I've got enough deterrence where, he's got to play a little bit more careful with it, or there's at least some risk of him bringing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And at least for yourself, you won over Florian this week, and you beat Matthew in the regular season as well. So maybe for you got a little bit of confidence on your side, and I don't blame you for it. But moving on into our next match we want to talk about, and that's going to be Vikram against William. Now, why is this match so important, other than for the obvious reasons, Calvin?
Well, on Vikram's side, like we already stated, he can't make it into playoffs. But the thing is, for William, this is an important match because this is going to solidify his 4th place spot to make sure he is in. So no matter what, if he defeats Vic, he is in. But if he is to lose this match, that's where our next match is going to come into play. It's, if he loses by -2 differential, more than 2 differential, that's going to give Sean the opening that he needs to steal away that 4th place spot. Because if Sean is able to defeat me in our match, and if he has to 6-0 me, or based on how badly William were to lose to Vic, Sean can get in, right? So if William loses full on 6-0, Sean will only need plus 3 to get in?
Yeah, plus 3.
Plus 3. So Sean's got he's hoping for a lot here. He's got to beat me, and he's got to hope William loses. But it's not out of the realm of impossibility.
Well, let's talk about that. It's not out of the realm of possibility, but it is. he is in a tough spot here, and he's kind of at the mercy. And this kind of shows Sean had a bit of a rougher start in this tournament, and he came up with some strong wins, but he hasn't really had a lot of strong wins on the differential side of things. And he might be punished in this last week because he not only needs William to lose by a great amount, but he really needs to defeat you by a very strong amount. And I feel like he's in a tough position. I would love to see it. I would love to see Sean, squeak his way into playoffs there, because I think it would just be a great turnaround from someone's start of the season, an experienced player in the NCPL. But I'm feeling like it might not be the case. Of course, I doubt you're going to say that Sean's gonna beat you, so I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but what do you think the odds are of Sean getting into that 4th spot?
It's tough to say. Now, if we're looking at the odds of Sean beating me, traditionally, if we look throughout the history of the NCPL, Sean's actually probably had the most consistent win record against me out of most players in this tournament. Not too many people, until a lot of these newer players came in. Not a lot of players really could stand toe to toe with me, but Sean always has been able to. And if we look even at last season, he was able to win pretty definitively against me. So, things are a bit different this time around, but I don't think it's out of the realm. I don't think it's impossible that he could beat me. It's just, I don't think he can beat me with a high differential. That's the thing that I don't think is going to be on his side. And, I have a lot of faith in Vikram, but I don't know if he's going to be able to beat William, with a high differential as well. So,
yeah, I think that's just it. It comes down to, 2 matches with 4 players that are all really skilled, and it just doesn't strike me as something that's going to be like 2 6-0 matches. But you never know. Crazier things have happened. Like, anything can really happen in these matches, and that's why Sean is in contention. But it makes his week coming up all the more interesting. Let's talk about the Shield matches now, though. Let's talk about Ross. Speaking of, we're just talking about Sean and what a turnaround he had, but how about Ross? What an absolute turnaround in this tournament. He was looking super rough in the beginning. He just wasn't getting the best wins. He was taking some tough losses, and he just absolutely, in the last few weeks, has turned it around, and now he picked up a big win this week, and he's sitting in the 3rd place position of the Shield division. Now, that may not last, because he's got a hell of a road against him. He is against Jonas this week. I would say that Ross is guaranteed to be in playoffs, and then when I looked up his schedule, and he's got Jonas this week. So all this work for the last 5 or 6 weeks for Ross could be for nothing, because Jonas could totally just wipe the floor with him, and Ross, all the other odds could be against him, and he might not make playoffs. What do you think of that match with him and Jonas coming up?
Yeah, honestly, that's possibly the worst Week 11 matchup you could have, especially if you're this close in contention for a playoff spot. Like, it looks like Ross is the most comfortable, but oh man, that is a tough opponent to get across. And if you look at everyone else below him, how close they are. Like, you've got Reggie and Zeb. Reggie's 2 differential behind. Zeb is 6 differential behind. But I hate to say it, but you're not looking forward as, how, I'm going to beat Jonas. This is going to be, there's a potential you're going to lose this match, right? Now you're thinking, well, if I lose 2 differential and Zeb is up 4 or something like that, right? That's where it gets really sketchy for Ross. The fact that everybody is all tied, the differentials are so close, Ross is going to have the prep of his life. He's going to have to play like a god, which is possible. Jonas is not undefeatable. Ross is a really good player. He's got some really great ideas and prep. He's going to need everything going into this match to come out with a win.
Absolutely. I think it's just about sure, if you can beat Jonas, that's awesome. If you can beat Jonas in the last week of the regular season, what great momentum that would give to Ross. It would lock him into playoffs, and he would just be riding that wave of momentum going into the playoffs. But looking at Jonas's differential, it's not like we talked about it every single week. It's not like Jonas has not won his matches with 1 differential, 2 differential. He's basically 5-0, 6-0 at everybody. So when you're looking at tied with Reggie in record, but he's got only 2 differential up on Reggie. He's only got a 6 differential up on Zeb. Ross could really be in trouble here, and I hope he's able to pull it off, and at least, if he can't win, at least he can skate by with low differential and push Jonas to, hopefully, limits we haven't seen Jonas push to so far this season. But man, I do not envy the position he's in. It's going to be tough for him.
Yeah, I agree on that. But moving on to another match that is equally as important in every regard. This is a match that is absolutely important for playoff contention. 100%. You've got the 4th slot Reggie up against the 5th Zeb. Oh, this is crazy. I swear this is all planned, but it's not though. Both players are 6-4. Reggie's at 8. Zeb's at 4. Reggie was top dog for a lot of this tournament. He was really comfortable in his seeding. He was first for a long time, then second. And just in these last few weeks, he's just been dropping. And it's kind of been the complete opposite for Zeb. He's been kind of looming around the middle of the pack. But, this is his opportunity to actually make it in. But against an opponent like Reggie, that's a big match right there.
Yeah, I think it's a super huge match for both players. Reggie, as you touched on, has been very dominant in this tournament, and he's definitely slipped in these last few weeks, so he's going to want that win. I don't think Reggie wants to spend, 80-90% of this season at the top of the division, only to slip out and not even make playoffs. And I look at Zeb, again, another player. Is his first tournament here in the NCPL. It was super who the heck even is this guy? We don't know much about him. Didn't look super impressive in his first couple weeks of play, and he's just turned it around just absolutely incredibly, and just to see him in the contention here to make the playoffs is all that more awesome. And to have Zeb versus Reggie in the last week, it couldn't be any more fitting. The Shield division is just unreal, the matchups that we have here, and it's all these playoffs, or all these players, in contention are playing against each other. It's that's the way you want to go out, right? You want to be battling your other fellow players you're in contention with to get those playoff spots, and I would love to see Zeb take the win here and get himself into playoffs. And I don't know, what do you think, Calvin?
Yeah, well, there's hope for both players, though. No matter what, whoever wins this match is gonna make it. No matter what, right? You'll be at the 7-4 win-loss record. You'll be safe. But, Ross is the wild card. What if Ross loses terribly? What if Ross is -6 differential, and boom, now his differential is 10? And let's say Zeb was the one who won that match against Reggie. And let's say it was a close match, which, hey, if my money's on anything, this is going to be a fucking close match. Say Zeb wins by a +2. So he's at 7-4. Now he's at +6 differential. He moves up to 4th. Let's say Ross, lost pretty bad, lost 6-0 to Jonas. He's at 4 differential. And Reggie only went down by 2. Now Reggie holds on to a 4th place spot. That's how important this Ross match is. How badly he loses can impact everyone else, but him winning will just automatically, block people from popping in to take his spot. But, based on that very scenario I gave you, Reggie and Zeb could potentially get in.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's talk about our final match. Again, now we have the 6th seed, Chris, up against the 7th seed, Jared. Now, they got a bit of a tougher road. They have a lot more moving pieces in order to make the playoffs, but they're still in contention. And as we just talked about with these other 2 matches that take place in the Shield division, really anything can happen, and that's why there are so many players on this side still in contention for the playoffs. What are your thoughts as we look at that match? They're both tied for record, 5-5. Chris with the +8 differential, Jared with the +4. I feel like Chris definitely has the advantage of that +8 differential because he's tied for differential with Reggie. He's very close to differential with Ross, and he's ahead of Zeb in differential. So he's really an X factor, I think, when it comes to potentially sneaking into a playoff position.
Yeah, but the thing with Chris and Jared is they're both... Whereas Reggie and Zeb, on their own, no matter what, can make a playoff spot just by winning their match. Chris and Jared is 100% dependent on obviously winning their own matches, but seeing how everything else playoffs. They need Ross to lose. That's 100% what needs to happen. And they need, where are my notes here? I'm sorry. This is so unprofessional. I'm just terrible. But they need Reggie and Zeb to lose as well. And I'm pretty sure by, decent differential here.
But the problem is Reggie and Zeb play each other. So one of them will win and one of them will lose. I think what they need is Reggie. They would need Zeb to get the win because Zeb has the lower differential. No, that wouldn't help at all because Zeb would actually be up on them 7. He would have 7 wins, so that actually wouldn't help their case at all. There's just so much going on in the Shield division.
So he needs... Yeah, so for example, for Jared... So, Jared needs Ross to lose, and he needs to be higher than Zeb at differential. So say... Or Reggie and Zeb, right? As long as, Ross loses, and one of them have a lower differential than Jared can get in. The same as Chris, right? But like you said, Chris's odds are better because he's got the higher differential buffer. Whereas Jared needs to 100%, he needs to absolutely 6-0 Chris, and there needs to be landslide wins on the other side, right? Like Jonas has to 6-0 Ross, and yeah, Reggie just 6-0 Zeb. Boom, Jared's in, right? Big losses, but big gains for Jared or Chris. That's what they are, 100% hoping for.
Absolutely. It is all on the line for these 7 players as we head into Week 11 of the NCPL Commander Draft Tournament Season 7. It doesn't get any bigger, more exciting, or better than this. I cannot wait for next week to conclude and to be covering all the action here on PokeCentre. That's going to do it for us on this week's episode of PokeCentre. Stay tuned for the Game of the Week. The Game of the Week this week is out of the Shield division. It's Brian against Leo. It's a great match, and it's awesome to see 2 players that are no longer in playoff contention that are still having great matches. We had a lot of great matches this week, and it's awesome to see a game between those 2 players win Game of the Week, and that everyone's supportive of how awesome that match truly was. Your Pokemon have been rested up, and we hope to see you soon.
Yeah.